Hey everyone, welcome back, and thank you for joining me today. I'm Sukhdev Singh, and you are watching channel AI for Lib Community, a space where library and information science professionals across South Asia come together to figure out what AI actually means for our profession. Today we are talking about something I think is genuinely the central question facing our field right now, the shifting paradigms of information science. We'll look at how artificial intelligence is reshaping large-scale knowledge discovery, and more importantly, why the human judgment that librarians bring to the table hasn't become less valuable in this new world, it's actually become more valuable. So if you've ever wondered where you fit into the AI conversation as an information professional, stick around, this one's for you. So in this slide, I want to show you something that genuinely surprised me when I first ran this analysis. Picture a 1218-page PDF, that's the Journal Citation Reports Impact Factor List for 2025, the master list ranking academic journals globally. After cleaning and deduplicating, you get 20,449 unique journals. Here's where it gets interesting for us in India. Only 114 of those journals are published here. Filter down specifically to library and information science, and you are left with exactly one journal, the Annals of Library and Information Studies, with an impact factor of just 0.4. Here's the thing, 20 years ago, reaching that number meant weeks of manual coding and cross-referencing spreadsheets by hand. Today, AI gets you there in a single evening. That's the velocity of scale we are dealing with. But getting the number fast is only half the story. Let's talk about what that number from the last slide actually means, because this is where it gets interesting. The AI gave us a clean fact: only 1 out of 114 Indian journals in the JCR ecosystem represents library and information science. That's a number, and AI produced it instantly. But a trained information professional looks at that same number and doesn't stop there. They start asking why. Is this about editorial policy at Indian LIS journals? International visibility? Publishing infrastructure that hasn't kept pace? Or does it reflect where research priorities and funding have actually been directed? Notice here that the AI answered the question we asked, but it took a human to figure out which question actually mattered. That's the real takeaway: the value was never in obtaining the number. The value was in discovering the right question to ask about it in the first place. Now let's look at a real example of why this matters, and honestly, this one is close to home for a lot of us. Picture more than 150 Indian medical journals, decades of clinical observations, properly structured metadata, genuinely high relevance to patient care. And yet, for years, this research remained essentially invisible to global discovery systems like Medline and PubMed. Not because the science was weak. Not because the metadata was sloppy. It stayed invisible because it simply wasn't accepted into specific legacy indexes by traditional gatekeeping committees. Look at that diagram for a second. You've got an entire vault of valuable clinical knowledge sitting behind a wall, and that wall isn't quality, it's committee selection. That's the architecture we've inherited. And it sets up the bigger question we need to ask next. What happens to that wall once AI-driven discovery stops caring which side of it your journal sits on? Here's a direct comparison that makes this shift really concrete. In the traditional system, gatekeeping worked through committee-selected index inclusion. Somebody, somewhere, decided your journal was in or out. Visibility depended on whether you physically resided in one of a handful of major databases. And search meant exact database querying, where you had to know precisely which terms and which database to use. Now flip over to the AI-driven system. Content gets surfaced regardless of which index it lives in. The real prerequisite for visibility becomes accessibility and properly structured metadata, not committee approval. And the search paradigm shifts to contextual question answering, where the system tries to understand what you actually need, not just match keywords. The bottom line, and I want you to sit with this for a second, is that research visibility is no longer strictly dependent on legacy gatekeepers. That's a genuinely structural change, with consequences far beyond journals. Let's zoom out from journals for a moment and look at higher education more broadly, drawing on findings from a May 2026 report called Charting a Path Forward for Ontario Universities in the Age of AI. On the opportunity side, institutions are seeing real gains in personalized learning support, improved research productivity, and better workforce preparation through AI literacy training. But, and this is important, there are real systemic risks sitting right alongside those opportunities. Academic integrity and trust are under pressure. Universities are becoming dependent on a small handful of AI providers. And copyright and data security questions remain largely unresolved. Notice here that this isn't a simple good news story, and it shouldn't be treated like one. The report's conclusion is refreshingly direct. Institutions need to focus on integration and critical literacy, not restriction. You can't just ban your way out of this. This slide lays out, I think, the clearest mental model for thinking about AI and human roles side by side. On one side of the scale, you've got artificial intelligence, genuinely excellent at pattern recognition, operational efficiency, and information retrieval. No argument there. But on the other side, you've got what I'd call distinctly human imperatives, critical thinking, ethical judgment, and trust and collaboration. These aren't soft skills we're naming as a courtesy. They're capabilities AI fundamentally doesn't possess. Here's the thing, the big picture conclusion from this slide is that the future of higher education isn't a choice between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. It's about making sure human judgment stays at the center of institutional decision-making, even as we lean more heavily on AI for the operational heavy lifting. So let's bring this down to earth and talk about what this actually looks like inside a library. So what does this balance actually look like in practice? Let's walk through the core competency wheel for what I'm calling the AI-era academic library. Start with trusted guidance. A global survey of 311 academic librarians confirmed that trust, transparency, and ethics remain the library's defining institutional value, even in an AI-saturated environment. Then there's dedicated AI roles. Rollins College actually replaced a retiring reference librarian with a dedicated AI librarian back in 2024. Over at Rutgers, we are seeing responsible adoption in action, with a librarian selected for Google's Higher Ed Faculty AI Fellowship. And Cornell University has introduced AI literacy librarian positions specifically for outreach and faculty collaboration. Notice the pattern across all four examples. None of these institutions are stepping back from AI, and none are handing over the keys either. They're redefining what core library service means, and that brings us to the real heart of this talk. Here's the thing, AI has made answers remarkably cheap. Give a modern system a well-framed question, and it produces in seconds what once took hours of manual research. That part is genuinely true, and I don't want to undersell it. But answering was never the hardest part of information work, and this is the asymmetry I want you to really sit with for a moment. The system can only respond to the words it actually receives. If the question is vague, poorly scoped, or missing crucial context, the system will still answer, confidently, fluently, and quickly. It just might be answering the wrong question entirely. So the bottleneck in information work hasn't disappeared with AI, it's simply moved. It used to sit at the retrieval stage. Now it sits squarely at the framing stage, and that shift is exactly what we are going to unpack next. Let's walk through this flowchart, because it's the clearest illustration of the risk we just talked about. Say someone comes in with an initial query. Take that query straight to direct AI processing, and you'll get an answer, fast, polished, and convincing. The problem is, that answer can be entirely incorrect, like that impossible Penrose triangle in the diagram, something that looks structurally sound but doesn't actually hold together. Now follow the other path. The query goes through a reference interview first, where a librarian uncovers the real need behind the question, the specific patient group, the actual context, the real constraint nobody mentioned upfront. That produces a clarified query, which goes to AI processing, and out comes contextually correct evidence. Same starting question, completely different destination. The lesson is blunt. A poorly framed question generates an answer that looks entirely convincing while pointing in exactly the wrong direction. This graph, for me, is really the thesis of this entire presentation, so let's slow down here. Look at the dashed line. That's the cost and effort of information retrieval, of simply generating answers. It's been falling steadily from the pre-AI era into the age of generative AI, and it keeps dropping. Now look at the solid line climbing in the opposite direction. That's the value of diagnostic inquiry, the skill of framing the right question in the first place. As one curve falls, the other rises, and they cross right around where we are standing today. Here's the part that really matters, as the cost of a wrong answer becomes harder to see, because wrong answers now look just as polished as right ones. The ability to accurately diagnose an information need stops being a basic service. It becomes a premium institutional safeguard. That's the value inversion. So let's bring this all together. The space between the question asked and the question needed is exactly where information professionals have always worked. That's not new, that's been true for as long as the reference desk has existed. What's changed is the stakes. The reference interview was never just a courtesy, it's a critical diagnostic process, and in an AI-saturated world, it might be the single most valuable skill our profession holds. The profession that developed the skill of framing questions is not becoming irrelevant. Quietly, it is the profession this era needs most. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. If you want to keep this conversation going with information professionals across South Asia, come join the AI4Lib community. See you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. In the next lecture, we'll dig even deeper into what this means for day-to-day library practice, so go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss it.